The Morzathian fleet hovered in high orbit over Earth, their sleek silver ships shining against the vast black canvas of space. On board the lead vessel, the flagship Intellectual Virtue, Commander Zerknath stood at the helm. His posture was impeccable, his face expressionless. The Morzathians prided themselves on their stoicism, cold, calculating beings who thrived on logic, order, and efficiency. They had perfected nearly everything in the galaxy. Advanced technology? Check. Immortality? Achieved centuries ago. A highly regulated society that operated with machine-like precision? Of course. But there was one thing they couldn't quite figure out: humor. Humanity, despite its primitive technologies and often chaotic societies, had one thing that utterly baffled the Morzathians. Earthlings laughed. They played tricks on one another for seemingly no reason. They enjoyed something called jokes. This phenomenon was of significant interest to the Morzathian High Council. So they sent a team of elite researchers to Earth with one simple mission: understand humor. However, Commander Zerknath had no idea what he and his crew were about to unleash. When the Morzathians first landed on Earth, they expected a formal reception, but what they got was a bit different. The human representatives stood waiting at the base of the Morzathian ship, waving in a manner that could only be described as cheerfully chaotic. Dr. Eliza Jackson, the lead human scientist, greeted Zerknath with a broad grin. She stuck out her hand. Zerknath glanced at it, his face expressionless. Handshakes were a weird Earth custom he'd been briefed about, so he shook it, unsure of its significance. That's when it happened. The noise came from beneath him. Zerknath's eyes widened slightly, an imperceptible twitch for most species, but a full-blown panic reaction by Morzathian standards. He looked down and saw a flat, round object beneath him, a whoopee cushion, the humans called it. The humans exploded into laughter. Dr. Jackson wiped a tear from her eye. "Oh man, classic," she said between gasps of breath. "You should have seen your face." Zerknath didn't understand. The noise had been unpleasant, and his physical dignity had been compromised. What part of this was amusing? Nevertheless, he recorded the event on his data pad for further analysis. Day 1 of human observation. Subjected to an auditory anomaly known as a whoopee cushion. Humans displayed excessive physiological reaction, including laughter. Hypothesis: they are easily distracted by minor inconveniences. Further study required. The prank started small. A bucket of water precariously perched above a door. An innocuous jump scare from a fake spider, even a chalk outline of a body on the floor, which the Morzathians mistook for a murder, triggering a full-scale investigation that wasted 3 Earth days before Dr. Jackson explained that it was just a joke. The humans were relentless. Every time Zerknath or one of his crew tried to observe, document, or understand humor, they found themselves on the receiving end of another prank. At first, the Morzathians tried to play along. Zerknath, who still didn't understand the humor behind these incidents, decided that perhaps imitation was the key to understanding. He issued an order to his crew: "We will prank the humans in return." Their first attempt was embarrassing. The Morzathians meticulously rearranged the humans' laboratory equipment, expecting great confusion and laughter to follow. Instead, the human scientists continued their work, oblivious. When Zerknath asked how they had felt about their equipment being moved 3 centimeters to the left, Dr. Jackson just blinked at him. Okay. The Morzathians, now desperate for results, tried harder. Their second prank involved placing small holographic monsters in the human base. The monsters popped out of corners making boo sounds, which in Morzathian culture was a universally accepted signal of surprise. The humans? They loved it. In fact, they turned the holographic monsters into an impromptu party game. At one point, someone started giving the holograms hats and sunglasses, which the Morzathians found utterly confusing. The human response to their pranks had always been baffling, but what happened next was nothing short of chaos. The humans escalated things. Zerknath was woken one morning to find that his entire command console had been covered in googly eyes. Every single button, every screen, every input had tiny plastic eyes staring back at him. He stood there in silence, processing the fact that his warship, one of the most advanced in the galaxy, was now googly. The crew was furious. Some considered this an attack on their dignity. But then Zerknath noticed something strange, a small twitch at the corner of his mouth. It took him a moment to realize what it was. He was smiling. Impossible. Was this the beginning of humor? That smile was his downfall. Word spread quickly among the Morzathians that their commander had shown signs of amusement, and it became a point of pride for his subordinates to create more elaborate pranks. Thus began the spiral. The Morzathians descended into madness. The once orderly, hyper-logical society broke down into factions. One group, the traditionalists, fought to maintain their solemn and serious way of life, while the jesters, those who had fully embraced the human concept of humor, plotted pranks so intricate they might as well have been classified as warfare. Commander Zerknath, despite himself, became something of a ringmaster in this madness. No one was safe. The engineering bay, filled with balloons. The gravity systems, reversed for hours, causing crew members to float helplessly. Every door now held the risk of being rigged with confetti cannons or pies. One of the more memorable incidents involved an entire department being replaced with lifelike cardboard cutouts. It took the real crew half a day to realize that the people they were working with weren't responding because they weren't, in fact, alive. And then, the humans took it a step further. Zerknath walked into the conference room, expecting another debriefing. Instead, he was greeted by the sound of raucous applause. His entire crew stood before him, clapping and cheering. On the floor in front of them lay the ultimate prank, a lifelike replica of himself lying unconscious in a pool of green alien slime. The detail was immaculate. The faux Zerknath even had the same unamused expression he wore daily. The humans had outdone themselves. He had to admit it. This was it, the apex of pranking. He was defeated. But instead of admitting defeat, he felt something else. He began to laugh. At first, it was just a small, awkward chuckle, a sound that hadn't been heard from a Morzathian in millennia. Then it grew louder. The crew watched in stunned silence as Commander Zerknath, the most stoic of all Morzathians, let out a full-blown belly laugh. The entire room followed suit, as Morzathians and humans alike howled with laughter, tears streaming down their faces. Zerknath wiped his eyes and turned to Dr. Jackson, still shaking with mirth. "Commander," she said between giggles, "I think you've finally gotten it." But as the laughter died down, Zerknath straightened his posture, the gleam in his eye unmistakable. "Oh, Dr. Jackson," he said with a grin that was decidedly un-Morzathian, "you have no idea what's coming next." Her smile faltered. What do you mean?" Zerknath leaned in, his grin growing wider, and whispered, "You'll find out. The biggest prank in galactic history has only just begun." Dr. Jackson blinked. "Wait, what do you mean by?" Zerknath turned on his heel and walked away, laughing to himself, leaving her standing there with wide eyes and a growing sense of dread. Behind him, the Morzathian fleet began to mobilize. Somewhere far off in the cosmos, preparations were already underway for the prank to end all pranks. But no one, not even the humans, were ready for it. Zerknath's laugh echoed down the halls of the intellectual virtue as he strutted away from Dr. Jackson, his confidence now untethered by his former stoicism. A Morzathian discovering the thrill of humor was like giving a cat a laser pointer. It was chaos, with no end in sight. But this was no ordinary prank. No, this was going to be the prank that would leave both Earth and the galaxy in absolute shambles. The humans had no idea what they'd unleashed. The humans, however, weren't ones to just sit back and wait for some alien's ultimate prank. Word quickly spread among Earth's prankster elite, a loose underground network of meme lords, professional pranksters, and chaotic innovators. As soon as Dr. Jackson nervously uploaded a cryptic message to social media about Zerknath's ominous threat, the entire prank community mobilized faster than NASA could ever hope to launch a mission. Within hours, pranksters from all corners of the globe had taken up the cause. Codenames like L33T J0theer and the Banana Bandit were lighting up the dark web with ideas. One guy started plotting to replace the Statue of Liberty's torch with a giant rubber chicken, while another was working on hacking the Morzathian flagship's food synthesizers to only produce ketchup-flavored Jell-O. The human race wasn't just ready to fight back. They were going nuclear. Meanwhile, back aboard the intellectual virtue, Zerknath and his crew were furiously plotting. There was no limit to what they could do with their technology. Sure, The humans had crude earthbound pranks, but the Morzathians had mastered matter manipulation, reality-bending holograms, and teleportation tech that could pull an entire city block out of place and put it back with the toilets upside down. And now they had one goal: to pull off the most mind-bending, reality-breaking prank the universe had ever seen. It started small, like all great chaos does. The humans noticed a few things were off. In London, Big Ben started chiming Rick Astley's Never Gonna Give You Up every hour on the hour. People laughed, classic, an alien Rickroll, but the Morzathians had only just begun. A day later, the Eiffel Tower vanished from Paris, reappearing in the middle of Times Square, coated in glitter. By the time the French authorities arrived to investigate, it had teleported again, this time to a small town in Australia, upside down. The humans were bewildered, but it was all in good fun. Just a prank, bro, the internet said. But underneath, a sense of impending doom was spreading. Then the absurdity escalated into sheer, glorious insanity. One morning, the moon blinked. Yes, blinked. A massive glowing eye opened in the middle of the lunar surface, winked at Earth, then closed. For an entire week, conspiracy theorists lost their collective minds. Was it aliens? Government mind control? No, it was just Zerknath laughing to himself while remotely controlling a hologram. The humans were falling right into his trap. They couldn't even fathom what was next. But that's when the humans struck back. Unbeknownst to Zerknath, the human prank network had infiltrated his ship systems. As the Morzathians planned their next big move, their communications suddenly cut out. Confusion rippled through the bridge. Zerknath ordered his crew to restore the systems, but when the screens came back online, instead of their usual interface, they were greeted by the booming sound of air horns, the meme audio of destruction, followed by a looping video of a raccoon riding a Roomba to the tune of yakety sax. The Morzathian crew was bewildered. Zerknath, now half grinning like a madman, tried to override the human hack, but every time he entered a command, the console would only display, "Nice try, nerd." "What is this?" one of the bridge officers shouted, slamming their fist on the panel. Zerknath, grinning widely now, just muttered, "It's beautiful." Human pranksters weren't stopping there. Overnight, they hacked the ship's replicators. The next morning, instead of their usual nutrient-dense breakfast cubes, the Morzathians found their dining hall flooded with an infinite supply of plastic flamingos and rainbow-colored beach balls. Crew members were physically wading through inflatable palm trees just to reach their stations. Zerknath floated through it all like a mad king, basking in the absurdity. His people didn't understand, but he did. The prank was the thing. The end didn't matter. Only the chaos. In retaliation, Zerknath executed his next masterstroke. It was subtle at first. People woke up to find all the cats on Earth, every single one, simply missing. It caused mass panic. What would the internet do without cats? Was this an alien abduction? The theories were endless. But then, the very next day, cats came back. But they weren't just regular cats anymore. They were hover cats. Each feline now floated 3 inches above the ground, unaffected by gravity, gliding majestically through living rooms and alleyways alike, their little paws paddling uselessly in midair. The internet melted down. No one could tell if they were still pranking or if the prank had become real. Still, the humans pressed on. Back on the ship, Zerknath's quarters were hit next. He returned after a long day of scheming to find that his entire room had been filled, and I mean filled, with wiggly inflatable tube men. Dozens of them, flailing and gyrating in an endless, seizure-inducing dance of madness. This was war, and there were no longer any rules. Zerknath, his eyes gleaming, knew what had to come next. He'd let the humans think they were winning. Let them revel in their petty victories. But the final prank? The ultimate galaxy-shattering prank? He'd been saving it. It was genius, subtle, and so outrageous that no one, not even the humans, would be able to comprehend it. He walked into the ship's engineering bay, hands behind his back. "Prepare the Prankator, version 2.0. The engineers looked at him with wide eyes. "But sir, that prank it's too much. We can't." Zerknath raised a hand, silencing the objection. "We will," he said, his voice dripping with the kind of megalomaniacal confidence that only comes with being in way too deep in a cosmic prank war. "Prepare it for immediate deployment. Earth won't know what hit it." As the Prankator powered up, Zerknath smirked. He turned to one of his bewildered officers and muttered, "They'll never see it coming. The great glitter bomb of 2424. The officer blinked. "Sir, glitter?" Zerknath's grin widened to impossible levels. "Oh, not just glitter. Interdimensional glitter. It'll never stop." The officer gasped. "Not infinite glitter." Zerknath nodded, eyes gleaming with madness. "Yes, forever glitter." And as the countdown began, as the galaxy held its breath in anticipation of the most ridiculous prank in history, Zerknath leaned back, hands clasped behind his head, and said, "They're gonna wish they'd never messed with us." But deep in the bowels of the human prank network, a new plan was already underway. Because even Zerknath didn't know what was coming next. The real prank was already in motion.
Thank you for watching. Like, share, and subscribe for more original content. New chapters and standalone stories uploaded weekly.